Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today for this quick presentation of Twinmotion. Let me introduce myself. My name is Martin, I'm product manager on the software. In today's presentation, it will be separated in three different parts. In the third part, I will presenting you Twinmotion, what it is used for, and presenting you as well the major features of the software. In the second part, I will show you actually the new features that we introduced with the V2 update that we launched just before the Christmas holidays. And then in the third part, I will make you with you a Q&A session. I will take time to answer all of your questions. So let's get started. So first, what is Twinmotion? So Twinmotion is a 3D real-time visualization software dedicated to architecture, built on top of the Unreal Engine. For those of you who don't know, the Unreal Engine is a real-time engine, one of the most famous on the market, originally designed for video games, but it's used a lot in the industry, in the automotive area as well. So it's really the major real-time rendering software on the market, and now Twinmotion uses this technology to create its render. And when I'm saying real-time, it's really real-time. Here's a quick comparison of an image generated with a ray tracing software compared to an image generated with Twinmotion. The first one took about almost 1 hour, and in Twinmotion, it was actually not a render, it was the quality I had while I was working inside my viewport. Second example, the same idea. With the ray tracing software, it took 1 hour and a half in 2K resolution. And in Twinmotion, again, it was not a render, it was the quality I had while I was working on my project on my 4K monitor. So it's a completely new approach of the render. It's not anymore that you push the render button, you take a coffee, you come back after the lunch break, and you check the render, or sometime when you want the final image, you click on the render button before you leave the office at the end of the day, and sometimes you check the final result and you still have tweak to do, so change the light, change the intensity, change the reflection on some material, for example, and it's really time consuming. And now with Twinmotion, it's as I said, it's a completely new approach. It's real-time rendering. So if you send an image to your clients, he say, I want more light on this area, I want to change this material. In just a couple of minutes, you can create a new image and send this image back to him to validate his ID. So yes, it's different way to approach rendering. When we created Twinmotion, our main goal wasn't to create a software that create just render quickly. Our main goal was to create a software easy to use that anybody can just plug and play. We get bored about the really high skilled required by a lot of rendering software where you have ton of settings, small settings, where sometimes you just tweak one value and the render time double, triple, and you don't know why. So the idea was really to create a software easy to use with a simple UI that it's really prehensible. So this was the main goal behind the software. And adding to that, something that you introduced with Twinmotion 2018 was what we call the add-in. The add-in is for both ArchiCAD and Revit, and it allows a direct link between the CAD software and the visualization software. So if you are in Revit or if you are in ArchiCAD, in just one click you can synchronize your project with Twinmotion and begin to visualize it in real time right away. And then from Twinmotion, in just one other click, you can immerse yourself into virtual reality. So a workflow that before it was kind of complicated to set up. You have to add dedicated people that know gaming software to create those virtual reality walkthrough. In small architecture firm or medium architecture firm, often there is not such a profile. So now, using Twinmotion, you can go from your CAD to virtual reality in just 2 clicks. Our idea was really to simplify this workflow. So let's go back to Twinmotion now. So here we are in Twinmotion. It's just after the synchronization I was talking to you. During this synchronization, we do a few things automatically. We first import all the 3D, all the geometry of the project. We also replay something automatically. For example, the cars, the characters, the materials. Usually in CAD software, you have a native library of assets. For example, the materials. It's just a basic texture, basic diffuse texture. And during the synchronization, we automatically replace this diffuse texture by PBR material from Twinmotion library. And we do the same for the vegetation as well. In the CAD software, usually it's just a basic billboard with the shape of a tree. And during this synchronization, we automatically replace all those billboards by Twinmotion trees, which are affected by the weather and the seasons. Talking about that, and jump into the Nature tab, Weather. So here we have two main sliders. As I said, we really want to create something simple. First slider here, as you can see by the small icon, is controlling the cloud coverage. So if I start to drag this one here, cloud will appear, and at some point it will rain, which affects automatically all the material of the project. There is nothing to do. The second, the second slider here is controlling the season. So we start at the summer, all the trees are green. We switch to the fall, leaves start to get reddish and start to fall from trees. And now winter is coming. We also have an automatic occluding system that prevents particles from going in, so it will never rain or snow inside the project. Let's just come back to our sunny summer. So while all those trees here has been automatically replaced during this synchronization, we can also add more trees directly from Twinmotion library. So we just open up our library, go into the tree folder, and just drag and drop some assets from the library to the viewport. I can also do a multi-drop. If I select, for example, this one and this one, now at each time I will click in the viewport, this will randomly add one tree from my selection. And because it's in the tree folder, it will take a random rotation and a random scale, so you won't see any repetition. There is one last thing to visualize really quickly a project. It's a paint tool. So if I come to the vegetation tab here, I can select those three trees. I will enable my paint tool, and now I will just paint my tree directly onto my project. As simple as that. So normally here is supposed to be a small pond, a small area of water. So we'll come to the material section, scroll down to the water material, and just drag and drop my water materials onto my project. I can change, for example, the opacity, the reflection of it. Now let's just work a bit on the surrounding here. So I'll come back to my nature section, rocks, and just drag a few rocks here and there. For example, this one in the middle here. Maybe also add some plants over the water. So we'll come to the bush section. Now we have some lotus plant. And finally a few one with some flowers as well. And last thing, I just come into the character section, animals, and drag some butterfly. So everything starts to get pretty, so I will come to the media section, image. I will click on the plus here. This will create a new image, a new point of view actually. I can of course adjust my point of view so it's more focused on the project, for example. Press the refresh button here. And now I can right away come to the export section, select the image, the 02 that we just created, click on start export. I will send this to the desktop. So by default, it exports the image in a 2K resolution, but with Twinmotion we can go up to 9K. And here is the image we just generated together. It took me just 3 seconds to render. As I said, with this, With this real-time rendering, it's really a new approach. You create your image, you send this to the client, he gives you feedback, and in just a few minutes you can update your image with the changes he requested. Back to Twinmotion. At any moment in Twinmotion, you can also go in what we call the beam motion mode. It's an immersive way to discover the project. So here I'm currently walking on the ground at the height of a human being. And for example, if I had a VR headset, I can just, in one push of a button, switch to VR. So it's a really immersive way to experience the project through the eye of the future user of the project. So let's, for example, now switch to the drone view and take some altitude. So as you can see, it's a pretty large project. It's an international airport. If I open up the statistic tab over here, as you can see, it's 0.2 billion polygons. So pretty large project. And it's rendering at pretty high frame rate, as you can see here. At any moment in Twinmotion, we can also change the time of day, so we can visualize the project up at noon or at sunset. Right now, the space feels a bit empty, but at some point, when you create such a project, you want to bring life to the project. And what better way than to add some people? So here I will open the human tab of the characters library, and here we have a complete library of 3D animated people. For example, I can just drag Fabrice from the library to the viewport. Once he's inside the viewport, I can change, for example, his color preset. So if I drag him multiple times, sorry, you won't see any repetition. You can change his pose. Maybe he is in idle state. Maybe he's lying on the ground. Let's just get closer. Maybe he's dancing. And maybe he's doing the Gangnam Style dance, or maybe he's doing this one. We can even, for example, check in the special animation if the project is PRM ready. To populate the whole scene, it could take some time by just drag and dropping one character at a time like this. This is why we also have some groups. So if I open up my group section in the library, I can select this group of 3 people here, and at each time I will click in the viewport, this will randomly select from all the characters from Twinmotion library. And to have even more animation, we also have a path system. I will come to the urban section over here, character path. I will here click on my pen, and here I will just create a spline to define where my people will walk. And once I release my tool, people will automatically start spawning and walking on my path. As simple as that. When we designed the software, really our main goal was to create something simple, something that anyone can just launch the software the first time and get started. We don't want to lose all our users at hours of learning, of tutorials on the web. Our focus was just to create something simple. So it comes with a dedicated UI, and this UI consists of 3 major panels. The first one on the left, it's the library of the software. Here you will have some materials, vegetation, characters. We also have a user library. So for example, if you have, you can import your own asset, you can create your own material inside Twinmotion and save them directly inside your user library. And so you will have access to all those assets for every future project. And for example, if you can also store those assets on your network, so it will be shared around your network. The second major panel is at the bottom over here, is what we call the dock. The dock is where you will find all the options, the tools and the settings. For example, here my character's path is still selected, so I can change a few options. For example, I can open the type section and I can change the ethnicity of my people. If I have a project in Asia, I can choose to have more Asian people. I can change after that the activity. If I switch to travel, people will more likely have some luggage with them. And I can even change the width of my path. Finally, the last major panel is the one on the right here, is what we call the scene graph, the scene manager. It's basically where you have all the organization of your scene. It's like Photoshop, it's a layer system that you can turn on and off. So for this demo, I've already set up a folder with a few more people, so let's just hide it. So as you can see, we use this pass system to animate a few things in Twinmotion, like this plane taking off, this one parking, those characters walking in all the airport. But we also have a vehicle pass. So if I just come in front of my project, I will open up again my urban section, vehicle pass. Here, the same as I did with the characters, I will enable my tool to create a spline. Once I release my tool, cars will start spawning on my path. And here I have the option specific to this vehicle path. So I can change the lane, I can make the two-sided to two lanes. I can change the offset of the lane, I can change the density of cars, I can even change the speed. Maybe we are on an highway, or maybe just a slow road. And at any moment with Twinmotion, we can change the time of day, and we can visualize the project like this during day, or we can switch to the night. And when the sun comes down, the lights automatically lights up for the cars, as you can see here, for all the light posts, for the interior, but for the context as well. We used to know that architects don't usually take time to work on the surrounding. This is why we have created the background option. The background is just a basic cylinder with a texture, so you can switch from one background to another. And once you find one that fits your project, you can also change the rotation, so it will match the perspective of the image you are currently creating. At the end, with Twinmotion, we can export 4 different types of media. We can export image, we already saw that, up to 9K resolution. We can also export panorama, up to 8K resolution. Panorama that you can send online using TwinLinker features. In this online features, you can chain panorama, make a chain from one panorama to another, and it gives you a link that you can share with anyone. And it's just a basic web link, so you can open this link on a smartphone, on a tablet, or on any device. We can also export video and 360 video, and even 360 3D video. So if you have, for example, a Google Cardboard or a Samsung Gear VR, you can just put your 360 video inside that, put on your headset, and you just follow the path of the camera, but experience your project in a 360 video. And then at the end, we also have the BeamMotion export. The BeamMotion is a standalone executable file of the project. It has a dedicated UI. It's basically what you can send to your client so he can immerse himself into his project. It doesn't require Twinmotion, it's just a standalone viewer of the project. So that's it for this first part here. I see a few questions on the chat panel. I will take time at the end to answer all the questions. So now let's talk about what's new in the V2 update. So before we start, just to introduce this update and to introduce how we work with Twinmotion, we really want to develop the right software for you. So we highly look at all the feedback that we can have on the forum, on the Facebook, on the support, and it's based on this feedback, based on this feature request that we develop, that we choose the feature we want to develop. So this V2 update was really the major points that our community asked us to do. Major points that were missing in Twinmotion V1, and this was really following the feedback that the user gives us, that we push the software in the right direction. So for example, all the major updates, we first introduced the environment option. So if I switch back to Twinmotion, the environment option, you can find them in the Nature tab, Weather settings. So here we have a completely new panel with a lot of different options to customize more deeply your scene. This was really highly requested by our customer. And here you will have now the sun power, the ambient power. So you can, the ambient power is an ambient cube map that enlights the whole scene. So if I switch to 0, all the area in the shadow will be completely dark. We have also a white balance, so you can get your image colder or hotter. You can also change the GI, it's the bounce of the light. So here we have just bring a more option because our community asks us those options. Next thing we have the particle system. So if I switch back again to Twinmotion, I will make some back and forth with all the major features here just to show you this feature. So the particle system, if I just, for example, come over our pawn here, it's in the library. And here now we just had some particle system. So we have some small fire for the interior, fire with smoke, we have some waterfall, we have some small bang. So if I add a few one onto my project here, in just a few clicks, we completely change the ambience of the project. I can even go back to the weather section and just add some rain and even some more fog. So in just a few clicks, I switch to my sunny daylight to this really crappy foggy day, and this is the advantage of the software. It's that you can really quickly prototype things. You have an idea, you can really quickly test it. Maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's not. But it took me just 2-3 seconds to create some fog bank with some rain. So it's really a prototyping tool. Next thing we have is the overdraw render option. So to show you this, I will switch to the interior of my project. So let me just come into the good position. Let me switch back to Twinmotion. So to explain you this feature, I will first have to explain you how the reflection works inside Twinmotion. So let's just boost a bit the reflection on my ground here. I will come into the image section. I will click on the plus here to create a new image. And how the reflection work in a real-time application like Twinmotion, actually in all the real-time engine, is everything inside the reflection is what is inside the viewport. So for example, let's just boost a bit more the reflection. So for example here, as you can see in the reflection, I can see my blue screen over here. But if I start to look down, once my screen disappears from my viewport, it will not anymore be inside my reflection. It's a way the real-time software optimized the viewport. It didn't render everything that is not inside the viewport. So for example, if I create an image like this, here at this line over here, you see that it's just a blue color. It's actually an ambient cube map that takes just the lighting of the whole scene. And now if I come to the export section, select my image, let's just first export this image by default with no overdraw enabled. And now I will come into the small more here into my export panel, and I will just raise the overdraw to 100%. Come back here, export this new image to my desktop again. And now if I switch back to my image, here is the first one I exported without overdraw, so you can clearly see that on the left edge, at the bottom of the screen, we have this blue ambient cube map that take place. But if I switch to the new image, Here is now how the overdraw works. It just calculates the extra geometry at the top, the bottom, of the left, on the right. It puts all the geometry information inside the reflection, and then it crops the image at the ratio you have set up in your image. So here, it's just for example, of course, if I create a render of this project, I won't leave this floor at this level of reflectivity. But it's just to give you, to explain you the idea. This feature is really a feature to enhance the reflection. Next in line, we have autosave and incremental save. So now we have we have make a huge pass on the save in general. So in the preference panel, you can enable an autosave. So you can just it's just one push of a button. You choose to save automatically your file. You can set up save interval. You can also choose your folder, stuff like that. We can also incremental save your file. So you have your first name, you just press the button, and it won't erase your first file. It will just create a new file. Then after that, we have the batch export. Before with Twinmotion, we could only export one type of media at a time. So you will have before you had to export all your image at once, then all your panorama, then all your video, etc. Now you can just select all your media and export them all together. Then we have the Atlantis import. So now we can import .tma file. So if you have already started your project using Atlantis, but if at some point you want to bring more animation to your project, you just import your project into Twinmotion and keep working on it. And then you have the material apply mode. So here we'll come back again to Twinmotion to show you this function. So it just open up a new file synchronized with ArchiCAD. It's the Venezuela library. And to explain you this feature, first, for example, here is supposed to be some glass panel. And usually working with CAD software, all those glass panel is a separate object, meaning that I can just select it, erase it, for example. And if before we add this new function, when I was dragging material from the library to the viewport, we were into the apply to object, meaning that when I'm dragging a material to my scene, it will only apply this material to this specific object. So in this case, I will have to manually drag and drop my glass onto all my glass panels. So it was really time consuming. So now we have added the replace material option. So because all those glass panels share the same material, the same white material, if I drag this clear glass onto any of my glass panel, it will replace completely my previous material by my new one. Next one, we have the interior plans and the PRM. So again, let's switch to Twinmotion. The interior plot, it's just a new 3D, a new object, a new folder of objects that you can find to the living room plan section. And it's just a way to show you that we keep working on the software. We keep adding more and more things to the software. And so yeah, we have just added a lot of different plans just to enhance the interior of your project. And then about the PRM, so I'll already show you how to add a person in just a wheelchair but is in idle state, it's not moving. But we can also animate someone using the custom path. So here I will just create a quick custom path from here, for example, and just make it get out of the project. So by default, when you create a custom path, it puts you a box. As you can see here in the drop box here, it gives you a speed. So here I can change, for example, the speed of my box. I can change the delay at the beginning and a few different options. And now if I switch again to the character section, human, I can drag and drop, for example, Adil over here. I can select Adil. I can choose the disable animation. And this is the way in Twinmotion you can animate pretty much anything. Next thing, come back to my slide. Next thing is a few different stuff that I can't really show you inside Twinmotion. For example, the support of VR controller. Before this feature update, we were compatible just with the VR headset, so for the Oculus, the Vive, and the HP1. But now we are also compatible with the VR controller, so you can use them to teleport yourself into the project. And we keep pushing all these VR aspects. So here we are currently working a huge pass on the VR. So in the next release, we also have some major updates regarding VR. We also have physics in editor, meaning that using the M shortcut, we can activate the physics, so it puts you on the ground while you are working on Twinmotion. So for example, when you are placing your camera, you can enable your physics and it puts you at the height of a human being, so sometimes it's quite useful to set up your scene. We have the two-sided option on the materials now. We have also a texture preview on material. When you are creating your own material, you can import your own texture and you have the preview of your texture. We have now also the GI on Mac. It wasn't possible before. The option was not available. Now it's possible. We have the statistic panel, so I've already shown you this just before. We have a bunch of stats like the number of polygons, the performance intake of your computer. And we make a lot of optimization for the 360 export, so for panorama and video. We make a huge optimization pass on this, and now it's up to 2 to 4 times more faster than before, the render of those media. And we also have made some optimization on the sky just to be more fluid inside the viewport. So that's it for this quick presentation. I will just play the V2 trailer on the back, and now I will start to answer all of your questions in the chat, looking at the chat panel. So feel free to ask all your questions. So the first one, can you set it up to different screen size, like 4K monitor? Of course. So here I'm currently having a basic monitor, but at the office we also have a 4K monitor. So yes, if you have a 4K screen, Twinmotion will work perfectly. And you can just at the export choose as well to export all your media in 4K if you want. How can I hide layer for sprayed trees? Using the vegetation, you can't hide those trees right now. We are working on an enhancement of this feature, but yes, right now you can't hide and unhide all the trees painted. It's just because it's not drag and drop. It's not present inside the scene manager, so it's not just a layer that you can turn on and off. It's in the scene. So feel free if you have some question. I'm here to help you guys. What is the best way to create a mirror surface? So right now it's kind of a trick. Right now, as I explained you with the overdraw function, everything that you have inside the reflection has to be inside your viewport. So if you are in front of a mirror, you won't see anything. If you are on the side, for example, and you see the perspective of your project, you will have this reflection inside. So right now you have to position your camera on the side of the mirror. It's a limitation we currently have, but we know this issue. We know that there are a lot of users that already ask us how to overcome that, and we are currently working on something specially to enhance the reflection. The overdraw was the first part of this reflection enhancement, and for the next version we'll add more options for that. Is there a way to lock layers? Not right now. Not right now. We are currently thinking about the possibility to add some kind of lock of a froze layer. So it's part of a rework that we have planned for the scene manager. So yes, it's planned. It's but it's not right now. It's not possible. Let me just note that on my notebook. Is the quality of the image in the HTC getting better in the future? It is not as nice as the image video you can make now. Yes, indeed. We know that, and as I just told you before, we're currently working hard on the VR to create to add more options to the VR package, but also work on the quality of the display. So the VR is really something we want to push forward with Twinmotion. We really think that that VR is the future of architecture. Experience your project in VR with a BIM model. So yes, this is really something we want to push forward. What is the recommended VR set for an iMac Pro? The one we tried was the Vive. The Vive was really great with the iMac Pro, and we tried this one. So yes, this one is really great if you have especially if you have the new iMac Pro. I've already personally tried the Vive on the new iMac Pro, and it was running like a charm. It is putting all my Revit wall in same color. How to apply material color on same type of wall? As I show you just before, you can switch to. Let me just switch back to Notion. So let me again. It's the same as I did just over here when I was dragging a material on all of my objects. Here it completely replaces all your wall materials because you are inside the replace material option. Just switch to the apply to object. And now if I switch to the apply to object, I will apply this material only to this specific object. Is it possible to correct the perspective in relation to the vertical? For example, yeah, I know what you mean. So right now it's not possible. Right now it's not possible, but we are currently working on it. I can't tease you. We are currently working on it, so I can't tell you much more about that. But it's planned for the future, for near future normally. I think we touched the end of all the questions. So this video will be on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it back if you need. I encourage you to come to our social media. So, for example, our Facebook page. We also have a Facebook user page where a lot of your users are just here to share their work, but to also get feedback or when they have questions. So there is a great community here that help each other. So if you want to come have a look, feel free. And thanks. That's it for today. Thank you, everyone, and I wish you a good end of day. Bye.